the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. My name is Michael Evans, and you're listening to America's Voice Now. Thank you for joining with us this morning. You know, the folks in Congress are beginning to come out and have their say in reference to Edward Snowden's release of information. I got to tell you that when I hear someone like Dianne Feinstein and John Boehner call him a traitor, I've got to really, it just makes you wonder how the pot has the audacity to call the kettle black. I mean, Dianne Feinstein stated that what he did was an act of treason. Now, that's pretty rich, because this is the woman who has made it her mission to violate the Second Amendment clause that says, shall not be infringed. And she says that if she had her way, she would block firearms ownership from all Americans and get all the guns. Dianne, what part of shall not be infringed does that fall under? John Boehner came out and said that this guy is a traitor because he's harmed American ability to and informed the terrorists of what our capabilities are. Well, with all due respect, and I say that with dripping sarcasm, to Mr. Cry in Your Soup Boehner, any terrorist who's not cognizant of the monitoring that's going on in the internet is probably not a real terrorist. And if they're so incompetent that they don't know that they're being monitored and that their communications are being monitored, then they're probably too incompetent to set up a terroristic act that would qualify as something other than a suicide. Really? I mean, how stupid do you think we are, Boehner? I mean, it's really insulting to hear these congressional idiots come out and, like a bunch of fat marshmallows, sit up there and pontificate to us. What really bothers me about this entire issue, and the one thing that nobody seems to want to talk about in the media, is this. I played Snowden's interview for you yesterday, and I made a point of playing the part where he said that I could get any information on you, and he was talking to the reporter, or your accountant, or even the president. And here's where I think the media, again, has fallen short. But I want you to use your critical thinking skills and read between the lines of that statement, because what that really tells us is this. If he can get anything he wants on anyone up to the president, and he was nothing other than a contractor for Booz Allen Hamilton, then what's to prohibit someone in his position, and obviously there are literally, there's somewhere around 1,400 people who have top secret access like that are contractors. So we're going to try and say that not one of those 1,400 has a biased political ideological view on either side of the fence. And if that's the case, what would prohibit that person from gathering data on senators, congressmen, staffers, czars, pick it, and then using that information to influence them or blackmail them into a decision or a vote that would ordinarily be against what they would stand for? Nothing. So I invite you to take a look at a scenario that says, here is a couple of guys in the NSA or some contractor who have intimate knowledge that a senator or a congressman or someone in a high-level policy-making position within the Department of State, or you can pick it, and they know that that person has a problem with cocaine or heroin, or maybe they drink too much. Maybe they've got a girlfriend on the side. Maybe they've got a problem with little boys or little girls. Maybe that person has another family somewhere and his first family doesn't know about it. What would that person in a position of voting or policy making do to keep that information silent? Would they bend a vote? Would they be the one to throw the monkey wrench in the spokes of a piece of legislation or a policy? Would they be the one to pass to get the ear of the president and tell the president, look, this is really not something we ought to do here. I think you should really reconsider. Or, Mr. President, this is something we should absolutely do, and no more consideration is necessary. I mean, you can pick your scenario. But what everybody's failing to talk about is the fact that, and it's not relegated or limited only to the national government. If they've got this kind of informational access, what do they know about the Speaker of the House of the state legislatures? What do they know about the Speaker of the the senatorial caucus leader? What do they know about governors? What do they know about lieutenant governors? What do they know about the attorneys general? Well, if you file this lawsuit against the federal government, Mr. Attorney General from state XYZ, we're going to have to release the fact that we've got a photograph of you, or we've got emails from you to someone who's not your wife, or we've got a photograph of you in a pub with somebody who's not your wife, or you get the picture. You see, anytime you've got all of this information on people, it can be used for nefarious ends. And my problem with all of it is that you can't sit there and state that Snowden is a traitor when that information is being used to make people within government and within policy-making and decision-making positions traitors themselves. Can you? I mean, do the critical thinking on this whole issue and decide who's really the traitor. Is it Dianne Feinstein, who wants to basically remove the Second Amendment by legislative fiat without a constitutional vote? Is it John Boehner, who has capitulated to the Obama administration time and time and time and time again? What have they got on Boehner? I mean, I'd like to know what the NSA has on him, because it's almost implausible that a member of the conservatives would vote the way he votes, would lead the way he leads, if you can call that leadership. So I ask the obvious and open question. How many of these people who are currently coming out and supporting the administration on this spying thing are supporting it because they've already been corrupted? They've already been compromised. How many votes are given in Congress every year that are compromised in their nature because somebody's got some dirt on somebody else? And who's watching the watcher? I mean, these are people who aren't employees of the people. They're employees of contractors. Think about it. We'll be back in just a second.
Mission Control, this is Stan Sputnik.
Dad, this 2013 FCC report on internet service says Exceed is #1 for delivering advertised speeds.
Well, sir, Exceed Internet is 4 times faster than average DSL. Did you know DSL stands for disturbingly slow load times?
Keep it professional, Stan.
Right, sir. Can I come home now?
Stan, we need you up there to maintain these super fast 12 meg speeds. Now, let's check in with our local Earth-based Exceed dealer.
Faith Enterprises, 1001 West Broadway in West Plains, or call 417-257-1803.
The Government Accountability Institute has conducted an analysis of how much time this president has spent in economic meetings of any kind. For instance, how much time has he spent golfing compared to economic meetings?
Between golf and vacation, he's at 976 hours.
That's only more than double the time of what he spent on the economy.
But he won't rest
until people have jobs and this economy is rolling again.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Weekdays from 2 to 5, it's Glenn Beck on the Ozarks' Best News Talk 107.1.
You know, the story is out this morning from CBS News that the U.S. State Department cover-ups range from prostitution charges to drug rings. So I got to ask you, how many people in the State Department who are making policy and interacting theoretically on our behalf with foreign governments on a day in and day out basis have been compromised? I mean, listen, folks, this isn't even a theoretical question. Somewhere in the depths of this administration are people who have been compromised. The question is, by whom and to what end? We don't know the political affiliations or the ideas or the concepts of those who have access to this information. We don't know their political leanings. But I can tell you this. There's no way, shape, or form that anyone in any position should have that kind of access to information, because you will use it. It's not a question of might you use it. It's a question of when will you use it and how and under what circumstances. And what they're telling you is that, well, this is all necessary to keep you safe. What they're not telling you is what happens as the capabilities grow day after day, week after week, year after year. And what happens when the next person is in charge? We don't know what the political leanings are of the existing guy Clapper. I mean, you know, we're supposed to take on faith that we can trust them to do the right thing. I'll be honest with you. I don't take anything on faith from anyone in a political environment now. And I don't think you can either. You cannot trust anyone who is in a position of political power today. We have seen time and time and time again that the party mentality does what's best for the party. They couldn't care really less about you. Their goal and their interest and their agenda is to further the political party, not to further the American dream, not to further the rights and the inalienable or unalienable rights of American citizens. And after all, isn't that the sole point of government? Was government not created to defend and preserve the rights of Americans? Isn't that the whole sole purpose of government's existence? I don't expect government to keep me safe. I don't expect government to tell me what foods to eat. I don't expect government to tell me what I can look at and what I can read. They're censoring the military overseas. telling our soldiers they can't read anything about these scandals. Why? Who are they to tell a soldier who's fighting for this country that he's not entitled to open information about where the state of the nation is that he's defending? I mean, who do these people really think they are? Don't tell me that we can trust government, because we've just seen example after example after egregious example of the IRS violating the basic tenets of ethics that, I mean, listen, an 8-year-old could tell you that that's not ethical, to take privileged information and use it against you. And is what the NSA is doing any different? It's not. They have privileged information. They will use that information in some way, shape, or form. Who's the they? I don't even know. Some of the 1,400 contractors, some of the thousands and thousands of people in the NSA working as direct government employees who have political leanings and ideology, just like the 2 rogue agents in Cincinnati. Come on, give me a break. Yes, the sarcasm is dripping, because it's pathetically shameful to expect that we're to sit here like a bunch of boobs and believe that the government is only really interested in our best interest, and that they wouldn't do anything wrong with data that they have about us. Well, I beg to disagree. But, you know, I can give you 1,000 instances. In fact, I could keep you on here until noon with a list singly spaced on page after page after page of a full legal pad of examples of where the government has misused the information that they've been given. The IRS does it, and does it blatantly. Are you aware of the fact that the government is collecting the data about your health care and then sells it to companies? Yes, they do. They sell it. They demand that it be collected under the new Obamacare regulations, and then they sell it to drive revenue. Excuse me, I didn't think the purpose of government was to be a revenue positive operation. You see, anytime someone has extraordinarily high levels of access to information on individuals or anything else, market forces, you know, you cannot trust. Look, let's take this out of the political arena for a moment. If what you're telling me is that these NSA guys have all of this access, what's to prohibit them from going in and reading the proprietary and private emails of some of the largest corporations and the heads of the chief executive officer and the chief technology officer, and taking some new idea they have, some new product they have, and monitoring the chief technology officer, and then selling that information to a third party country or a third industry that wants to replicate the technology that the United States has developed? Nothing. And because it's done on a private company, it wouldn't even be considered to be a traitorous act. I mean, it's not government information, it's private corporate information, right? So it's espionage, but it's corporate espionage, not political. But what's to stop it? Nothing is to stop it. That's exactly my point. We are supposed to sit here and trust the ethics of an unknown number of individuals who are completely unaccountable to us, who we have absolutely no idea who they even are. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it. Go ahead, caller. Where am I going wrong here?
You're not going wrong. We didn't elect those people to run our business. That's really Congress's, and you've spoken to this before, that is what Congress is supposed to be doing.
Well, not only did we didn't elect these people, but we also didn't give Congress the delegated authority to say that we can that they can make a decision on our behalf that is detrimental to our best interest. Okay. I mean, that's a complete violation of the principle of the power of delegated authority. You can never use that information or that authority you've been delegated and use it in a manner which is deleterious to the person who has delegated that authority to you. It's a basic fiduciary principle.
Exactly right.
Hey, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It goes to a couple of things, Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely, especially when the people wielding it are anonymous.
Right. And not only that, but we can't even find out who they are because they're protected by courts ruling, well, this is secret, that's secret. Everything's secret except for you. Yeah. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
All right.
When you've got a court here who says everything is secret except your personal information, I gotta, that begs the question, where do we draw the line, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, the courts will tell you that what the NSA is doing is secret. The FISA court is secret. The information they capture is secret. The information that or the orders that they give to these companies, the Googles and the Yahoos of the world and the AOLs, Facebooks, when they obtain information from them, they are also issued a national security letter that states that they are gag ordered. They are bound by law not to divulge the fact that they've gone into your personal information and released that to the federal agency. You got to be kidding me. Now, I get the understand. Look, I'm not. If it's a guy named Abdul Rahman and he's plotting another 9/11, you don't want AOL calling the guy up and saying, hey, by the way, we got a letter from the NSA and we got to release all your emails to him because Abdul is going to stop using email then. I get it. But by the same token, at what point do we say this is outside the scope and the boundaries of what anyone would consider judicious use of authority? That's really what this question becomes. When you boil it all down, how far do we allow it to go before it crosses the boundary, the threshold of judicious use of delegated authority? And I'll tell you right now, they're way over the line. They passed that threshold decades ago. This didn't start with Bush, by the way. This didn't start with Obama. This has been ongoing for a lot longer than that. I mean, who remembers Carnivore from the FBI? I mean, the FBI had a program out there called Carnivore that went out and read everybody's email. And when that news broke, they flipped out, oh, that's national security violation, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you know what? I'm tired of you telling me that I must constantly abrogate my rights and my freedoms to be guaranteed safety that you already cannot guarantee. You see, that's the problem, people. They will tell you this is for your safety. But if it honestly is for your safety, I mean, if you can believe the statement that they make, then theoretically, Boston shouldn't have happened. The underwear bomber shouldn't have happened. The guy in Times Square whose car was smoking because he had already ignited the bomb shouldn't have happened. But it did. And he wasn't caught by the NSA or the police or the Department of Homeland Security. Some guy walked by and said, hey, cops, that car over there is smoking. I mean, come on. You see, if this was so effective, we would have nothing to worry about. If this program was so good, we wouldn't need the DHS arming itself to the teeth. If this program was so good, we wouldn't need the CIA out there. These are questions that are really designed and geared for a broad public discourse. And that's the problem with all of this. There can't be a broad public discourse when what you've got is a group of people that are operating in secret, and we really don't know what they're doing, and we're not allowed to even ask the question because it's all secret. Everything's secret, secret, secret. I mean, Secret squirrel, for those of you who are old enough to remember. Everything's secret squirrel, except your information. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll just line up and let our callers give us some opinion and ideas about it. You want to call us? Our telephone number is 417-257-1111 or 866-554-6636.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. President Obama is set to speak about immigration reform. Little less than an hour at the White House, with the Senate voting this afternoon whether to move forward with debate.
Supporters of the package are trying to stress that their bill would require illegal immigrants to work, learn English, pay taxes, and pass background checks before they're eligible for citizenship. And there won't be any opportunity for those who gain legal status in the U.S. to qualify for welfare for a decade. Meantime, a bipartisan coalition of House negotiators are trying to finish writing their own bill, which they forged an agreement on last week.
Fox's chat program at the Capitol. Nelson Mandela is said to be in serious but stable condition still at a hospital in Pretoria, South Africa, where this woman lives.
It's not yet time for him to go. We still want him to live.
The former South African president and Nobel Peace Prize winner was admitted to the hospital 4 days ago with a lung infection. He's 94 years old. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Visit our outstanding sponsors, West Plains Pawn, located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. West Plains Pawn can be found on the web at westplainspawn.com. You can also reach them via telephone at 417-256-3000. The battery station at 303 Washington Avenue, right off the square in West Plains. They can be reached via telephone at 417-257-7799. They can also be found on the web at batterystation.com. My friends at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance. Brian can be reached at 870-492-4030, and he's located at 3225 Route 62, 1/2 mile east of Walmart in Mountain Home. Make sure that you visit our friends over at Pizza Hut on Porter Wagoner Boulevard in West Plains. They have an outstanding lunch special buffet. You can have salad as well as pizza and other pasta, so you can have something tasty and something healthy. Bill Stone over at Stone Construction at 2930116. Bill Stone does remodeling, custom and new construction, light commercial, farm work, pretty much the gamut. If you're interested in doing some kind of a new project, make sure that you give Bill Stone at Stone Construction an opportunity to bid on that job. And my dear friend, Mary, over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade, right off the square in West Plains. She can be reached via telephone at 255-2253. She's got the best damn bakery in 100 miles. And thanks so much to our phone line sponsor, Jason over at Wits End Classic Barbershop. You can call us on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. He is on the square in West Plains. Excellent opportunity for you to get your hair cut. Get over there and visit.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington in West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com.
Weather sponsorships are now available on News Talk 1071 The Point. Get more information, email info@diamondmediaradio.com for complete details.
For the Point Weather Center, for this morning, we'll have a mainly clear sky. It's going to be sunny and hot through the day. The high temperature 94. Mainly clear tonight, low 70. Another hot day for tomorrow. Plenty of sunshine. There'll be a quickening wind as well. High 92. Sunny skies Thursday, high 88. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Okay, a couple of quick reminders. Greg McLaughlin will be doing the Black Ops School of Combat concealed carry training on the 29th of June, 8 o'clock in the morning, $75 a person. If you bring 5 additional people with you, your class is free. call him at 417-255-1612. That's 417-255-1612. You can find him on the web at blackopsschoolofcombat.com. And Greg, by the way, has developed that world's fastest technique for clearing a double feed malfunction in a semi-auto pistol. I've seen it. It is an outstanding technique, and it's going to become a revolutionary technique in the firearms world. So make sure that you are asking him about that. You can also call him. He'll hold classes on 2 evening classes to accomplish the same end, which is the 8 hours of classroom time for concealed carry. So make sure that you give him a shout about that. If you'd like to give us a call and talk with us about what we're talking, our discussion this morning, feel free to do so. You can call us on the Wits End Classic Barbershop hotline. That telephone number is 417-257-1111 and 866-554-6636. That's our toll-free number if you're out there in the hinterlands. Make sure that you see our friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, also at number 2 Evans Arcade, right off the square. You can call Mary at 255-2253. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mike. What I called about is like 9/11, there should have been a lot of red flags there, and there was. But the FBI just absolutely did not do their job. If they'd have been any good at all, they would have stopped that thing. And that's the same way with that bombing at the foot race there,
in Boston.
Boston, right. After the fact, there's 1,000 cops out in the road. We didn't need cops in the road after the fact. We needed ambulance and EMTs out there, These guys are just absolutely worthless. They don't stop any terrorism at all, and they spend billions and millions of dollars.
Sure.
And it just grow bigger and bigger, and these guys couldn't track a 3-legged bear across the muddy field.
Now, that's a great analogy. They couldn't track a 3-legged bear across a muddy field. I'm going to borrow that one if you don't mind. And your point is well taken, because here's the problem. If we had some modicum of confidence that at the end of the day, this surveillance or some other method of intrusive, monitoring of what we do was actually accomplishing its goal, or theoretical goal, which is really to protect, us from terrorist attack. If we had some level of confidence in that, I think most Americans would say, okay, I'm willing to do some level of, balance here between my rights and protection. But the truth of the matter is that they've been an abject failure.
Absolutely.
In preventing some of these attacks that have occurred. Not even some, all of them, actually.
Instead of being embarrassed or putting it on themselves, they just say, well, we need a Patriot Act to take everybody's rights away.
Right.
Because
you're absolutely, and that's a very, very good point. So let me just clarify that for the listeners. What your point is that instead of, when a failure becomes apparent, instead of saying, hey, we failed, they say, well, we don't have enough privileged information, we need more, and that's why it failed. Not because they were incompetent or inept or, just dropped the ball. So
we all know to be true.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Thank you, by the way, for the thoughts on that. That's very, very appropriate and very astute thinking. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Mike. Bye.
The critical thinking skills that are required of us, these are questions and issues which we should be asking, not only of ourselves, but of our alleged leaders and representatives. Because, if we just leave everything up to them, thinking, in the back of our minds, well, we elect them to do what's right for us. But they don't do what's right for us. That's exactly the whole point. Where do we draw the line that says when an elected representative doesn't do the right thing, we have some recourse? Because we don't. We don't have recourse. When they do the wrong thing, we're stuck with the results, and there's not a darn thing we can do about it. Go ahead, caller. Go ahead, caller. You're on.
Mike, is that you?
Yeah, you're on.
Hey, this is Brian from Mountain Home.
Hey.
A couple of points I want to bring up to everybody, and I'll get off the air quickly. One is the law enforcement is supposedly supposed to protect this, and it's their responsibility. Why has the Supreme Court ruled more than once that it is not their responsibility? They are to investigate crime.
Because
And
they
that's
want
where
it.
it stops.
Because they want it both ways.
Exactly. But that's what it is. They really are not legally responsible. They're after the fact. They cannot guarantee our safety.
They're reactive. They're not proactive.
Exactly.
And honestly, what they're trying to become is proactive, and that's what I have a problem with. Because in order to be proactive, they have to literally want to know whether you prefer boxers or briefs. And there's something wrong with that. You know, I don't think they need, or we need to allow them to go to the level and the depth of the information that they want to gather on us, because what inevitably happens is with all of that information, we no longer have control, we no longer have control of the people who have access to it, and we cannot trust those individuals because they're unaccountable, they're not elected, and they are, by human nature, biased, and they will use that information inappropriately, as we found out with the IRS. I mean, there's the perfect example of corruption on its face. Here, the IRS. I mean, there's a new transcript out there this morning. The IRS is caught on tape telling a nonprofit agency, "You've got to keep your faith to yourself." Hey, listen, I don't think that's under the purview of the IRS to determine what their rights are. That's, I read the transcript. She keeps saying, well, that's for a court to decide. That's for a court to decide. Well, if that's the case, then why are you telling me what is my right to act as a 501c3? Right. Then why don't you let the court decide whether I'm doing right or wrong instead of you, an unelected, unaccountable IRS minion, telling me what my rights are?
Without a doubt. Second point.
Yeah.
You bet. Second point, though, real quickly. I heard this morning on Fox or CNN that the whistleblower on the NSA issue may be held. They want to call for his death for treason. I have a better question for your public. What about the financial treason that has been committed by this Congress and this Senate going back how long? And all you got to do is look at our deficit and our current budget, and yet we are now slaves to our borrowers, which is China and everybody else, and yet there is not even any talk of that. Thank you, and I appreciate the time.
Thanks so much for those thoughts. And he's right. What about the treason that is perpetrated on us every day by these people in Congress? Look, you cannot admit that, or you can't deny the fact that $60 billion, which is, $60 trillion, which is really the most immediate aspect of our debt. But the real debt, if you count up our total debt, which incorporates all of the collective value of all of these issues which we've committed and guaranteed. I mean, we're talking loan guarantees, we're talking guarantees on commercial mortgages, we're talking guarantees on all of these investment vehicles that Wall Street has developed and created out of thin air to basically, shuffle money around and sell the same money 86 different ways and times. We're talking hundreds of trillions of dollars. It's not payable, ever. But even if only 60 trillion of it came to fruition because the stuff doesn't blow up, which I highly doubt anyway, I mean, who's going to cover that $60 trillion? I mean, really, folks, you got to recognize when we're talking about this kind of money, that's more than the global value of all the assets on the planet. That, ladies and gentlemen, is treason. Is it not? Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show. You're on.
I'd like to speak to the arrogance, the hubris involved in such as this. We've spoken many times that 3 men can keep a secret if 2 are dead. The fact that Snowden came forward should prove that conspiracies tend to fall apart, not because of Overwatch, but because the people who do this are so arrogant to believe they can get away with it in the first place.
Well, and there's a good point there. In other words, what you're saying is that while these conspiracies actually occur, the people who are creating the conspiracy actually get so confident and comfortable in the fact that they've got it secret that eventually they drop the ball.
They got the world whipped to the downhill fall. I mean, some of them do succeed. I'm not going to lie. They do. But most of them, by and large, fall apart because, A, they're too arrogant, or B, they're just blatant about it, like the Fed. I mean, stuff like that tends to be right out in the open. People just don't believe it.
Sure. Well, and look, I mean, let's take another example. The Farm Bill, right, is going through, and it's got 80% of a $955 billion farm bill that represents funding for food stamps. Wow. 80% of $955 billion? You've got to be kidding me. I mean, $955 billion, folks. That's the TARP program that everybody went up in smoke over.
Exactly right. Sounds kind of outrageous, doesn't it?
Yeah, and 80% of that to be done for food stamps? Hey, thank you very much for the call. We got a break coming.
One thing, what you said about Boehner, absolutely. I believe they'd got something on him. Why else would he vote that way?
Well, thank you. You got to question what is on Boehner, because what's going on with that guy is just, something's up there. I mean, this guy is, in theory, a conservative. I mean, he's a rhino. There's no denying it. But, I mean, even a guy who classifies himself as a conservative has to have more integrity and credibility than that. We'll be back in just a second.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
I like bad news out of Europe. It makes us look better. Unemployment has reached a new high in the Eurozone. Get this. Joblessness in the 17-nation area of Europe rising to 12.2% in April. So, basically, it's like here with better food and wider cell phone coverage. Huh? Sounds like a good time, Europe!
Weekdays from 9 till noon, it's the Dennis Miller Zone on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
At Missouri State University West Plains, students are finding new beginnings and endless possibilities.
Hi, I am Bruce Cabot, and I am a graduate of Missouri State West Plains. Everyone from the counselors to instructors has been encouraging and motivating. From day one, they take a personal interest in their students.
Call Missouri State West Plains today to find out how we can help you achieve your educational goals. Registration is going on now, 255-7255, or check us out on the web, wp.missouristate.edu.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center, or call 417-256-1819.
Out of 365 days a year, we celebrate holidays, anniversaries, and other important days. But there is one day you look forward to, your birthday.
I wanna wish you a happy birthday.
Ryan's Steakhouse of West Plains is proud to bring you the Birthday Club weekday mornings with Cooper & Company. Our daily winner receives one buffet and a drink to Ryan's. Just call your birthdays in weekday mornings with Cooper & Company at 255-0427. Brought to you by Ryan's and the Ozarks Best News Talk.
And happy birthday to you. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
Okay, so I just, brought that piece out before the break about the food stamp thing and the Farm Bill. In March, a record number of American households are on food stamps. 23,116,000 households, 116,000 households, blah, 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 a bunch of string of numbers after it, are on food stamps. Now, considering the fact that there are only 114 million households in the U.S., according to the census data of 2011, that means that over 20% of all households are on food stamps. It's not really that those people are all under the poverty level. It's that they keep raising the poverty level that annexes more people into poverty. And, if they keep raising the poverty level, the incomes aren't going up. They're static or falling, actually. And then they raise the poverty level. So what happens is they annex all these extra people into poverty that weren't in poverty before they raised the limit. I mean, really, come on. I'll give you an example of what do you call that when Congress does something like that and passes a bill that $955 billion, 80% of which is represented for designated for food stamps and SNAP. Guys, that's $700 and some odd billion. You got to be kidding me. People were flipping out over the bank bailout for $700 billion, but now you're giving the food stamp industry $700 billion. And there's no end in sight because they're going to come back for that next time, too. Is that an independence of America? Or is that dependence? I mean, where does, this issue that is coming out with the NSA and all of this data, theft and all of the rest of these things, where is their accountability to us? We have so many examples where they have shown zero accountability. And when I say they, I mean government. And I'm not relegating this just to federal. I'm talking state governments too. But when you have, as an example, the Senate passes this immigration thing and throws it to the House, and Boehner says, we're going to have to look at this and decide whether or not we really ought to tighten it down. You know what they're saying? Marco Rubio says immigration first, security of the border after. Now, come on, people. We've been down this road before. We've been down this road before. And just to prove to you that both parties are deleterious in their representation of you and have expressed multiple levels of malfeasance in office, remember that Marco Rubio was the guy they were pumping up to be a potential presidential candidate, who, by the way, has the same problem as the current guy who calls himself president, which is that he's not an American citizen qualified to run for president under the Constitution. But he's the one who says, we need immigration reform first, and we'll worry about border security second. And I keep issuing the mantra, no immigration bill until the borders are verifiably sealed and all illegals have registered. No discussion until those borders are verifiably sealed. And all illegals have registered under a 6-month window of opportunity for them. And anyone caught after that who hasn't registered, immediate ejection. I don't care if you've been living here for 40 years. If you don't register, you're out. Folks, that's common sense. You must tell us you're here, irrespective of whether or not you like the consequences. Because allowing them to stay here without registration is allowing them to violate and flagrantly violate the law going forward, which they've been doing for as long as they've been here. That kind of an act is a violation of the federal government's role. They have been given the role constitutionally to seal and verify and protect our borders. Folks, if you want an example of treason by Congress, that's it. Here they have been delegated a true constitutional duty. Enumerated, delegated, outlined, specified. The federal government is the one who's responsible for borders. Have they really, truly done anything to seal that border? Have they done anything to go out there and get the literally 50% of illegals in this country who are here not because they came over the Mexican border, but because they've overstayed visas? They're not Mexicans, folks. 50% of all the illegals in the United States are not from South America or the southern border. They're from Europe. They're from the Middle East. They're from, Greenland, I guess. They came in here with a visa to come here as a student or on vacation or whatever the heck they came here for, and they never left. If you want to protect us, let's start with that. If the NSA is really desperate to protect the United States of America from attacks by foreigners and terroristic attacks, let's start with that. But before you start monitoring every American's email from Granny showing pictures of little baby Johnny, I think we ought to put all of our efforts and time into finding out who's in our country here illegally and how they got here, how long they've been here, what contacts they have, and what do we got to do to get rid of them? Or to make them register after the borders have been sealed so that no more can get in. If you want an example of open, blatant treason, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. They have a constitutional mandate to protect the borders. Have they exercised it? Have they done it? No. So who are they to call Snowden a traitor? Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
I just want to remind you, we went through this once before Reagan.
Yeah, we did, and look at the results that we got.
In exchange for tax breaks and incentives, it's cuts in the government, we never got them. We did all the giving, they did all the taking, and we had 8 million more illegals.
There you go. And we're going to have, they're saying now that these numbers are really closer to 50 million. I mean, Congress isn't telling you that, but independent analysts who are looking at these numbers are saying that the numbers are 50 million. I mean, population of our nation, folks, is only 300 million. So what are we talking about? We're going to add a sixth again to our population so that we can say that we've been, the magnanimous dictatorship? I mean, I don't buy it. Thank you for that thought. And I agree with you. We did do this once before, and Reagan got sucker punched with this nonsense. We all got sucker punched, and we let it go. Are we going to stand here again and accept it again? Look, this issue of immigration is a perfect example of where the federal government truly does have an obligation to do something, and they have completely abdicated their level of responsibility and their constitutional duty. No immigration bill should be discussed until these borders are sealed. None. It's inexcusable. If you want to talk about a question of where we could apply resources to protect us, why don't we start with the 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or however many million there are in this country who are unknown to us? Are they not a great threat to our nation? We don't know what all their motivation is. If even only 1%, if 10% of 1% are dangerous to our republic, and a danger to society at large, isn't that motivation enough? That's far more than you have to worry about from domestic terrorism. You see, the numbers don't work when you really peel it back, folks. That's what tells me that all of this NSA stuff is really not about protecting you. And that is the message for today. If it was really truly about protecting you, they'd be locking down the border. They'd be using their snooping capabilities to snoop into the people who are running rampant all over our nation, who arguably are a real potential threat to us. Not checking in the diaper of some baby at an airport. I mean, that's the simple truth of this. So that's where the facts belie the rhetoric that they give you. You get all this rhetoric, they give you all of this nonsense. Excuse me. They tell you all these things, but when you really look at the facts, what they're telling you is very obviously a bald-faced lie. Please find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us on Facebook, and I encourage you to do that because we post stuff up on our Facebook page and up on our website every single day. Dozens and dozens of stories a day. Facebook.com/America's Voice Now. And then, last but not least, you can find this and every other show that we do on YouTube. And you can find that on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/America's Voice Now. Basically, just remember America's Voice Now, and you can find us pretty much anywhere you want to go, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or the web. America's Voice Now. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
West Plains, Missouri, it's KBMV Birch Tree, the Ozarks' best news talk.